Why, hello there! Well, that sounded a lot better in my head. Anyway, I recently took a long weekend trip to San Francisco and immediately fell in love with the city. I especially love how good the transit is there. We were able to go everywhere we needed without using a car, the stupid Waymos, rideshare, or the weird shuttle pod things. Now that I've got the footage from SF, I feel it's time to make a video, or videos, exploring SF's transit. This will be a three-part mini-series. The first part, this video, is about Muni, the second part will be about BART, and the third part will be about other transit operators that serve the city and county of San Francisco. Let's get started. Starting with geography, San Francisco is a consolidated city-county, meaning that the county of San Francisco is the city of San Francisco, and that is reflected in the city's official name, the City and County of San Francisco. San Francisco is situated at the northern tip of the San Francisco Peninsula, roughly in the center of the San Francisco Bay. Inside the city limits are Treasure and Yerba Buena Islands, the famous, or maybe infamous, Alcatraz Island, small slivers of Angel and Red Rock Islands, and the Farallon Islands, located way out in the Pacific Ocean. San Francisco is bordered to the south by San Mateo County, which itself is bordered to the south by Santa Clara County, which contains San Jose. To the north, across the access channel that leads into the bay, is Marin County, followed by Sonoma County. Across the bay is Alameda County and Contra Costa County, the former of which contains Oakland and Berkeley, and the latter of which contains Richmond. San Francisco proper is extremely hilly, which has been made famous by the many paintings and photographs that have come out of it. Unlike Miami or Chicago, SF lacks a unified grid system, instead having many, many intersecting grids, sort of like Atlanta. SF has two primary commercial airports. The bigger of the two is San Francisco International Airport, located in San Mateo County. The smaller airport is Oakland International Airport, located in Alameda County across the bay. The downtown core of San Francisco is centered around Market Street, which is a transit-only corridor on its eastern end. Along the waterfront near downtown is the Embarcadero, which is where all the city's famous piers are located. Last, the city has many large parks, including the Presidio, located right next to the Golden Gate Bridge, and Golden Gate Park. The San Francisco Municipal Railway, better known as Muni, is the primary transit agency for San Francisco. It is the first publicly owned and operated transit agency in a major U.S. city, having begun operations in 1912 to compete with private operators. Muni operates a multimodal network consisting of buses and trolleybuses, light rail, heritage streetcars, paratransit, and most famously, the oldest and last remaining cable car system in the world, which warrants its own special video going more in depth on it. Today, it is part of the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Authority, SFMTA, which is SF's version of a Department for Transportation. As is normal for this channel, we'll start with the highest capacity transit and work our way down. San Francisco's light rail system is called Muni Metro and is one of only a handful of first-generation streetcar systems that have survived into the 21st century. Muni Metro has 6 full-time lines along with a special event service. The reason these lines survived being turned into buses is due to them running through reserved right-of-ways that couldn't be converted to buses. The K Ingleside, M Ocean View, and L Taraval all run through the Twin Peaks Tunnel, the N Judah runs the Sunset Tunnel, and the J Church utilizes a reserved right-of-way through Dolores Park and Dolores Heights. The T 3rd Street is a new build line and thus never had the opportunity to be converted into buses. That leads me right into the first topic with the Muni Metro, its core infrastructure. First is the Twin Peaks Tunnel, which carries the K Ingleside, L Taraval, M Ocean View, and S Shuttle lines. The tunnel begins at the West Portal Station and runs for 2.27 miles to the Market Street subway, which continues into. It opened in 1918 and has 2 stations. Another legacy piece of core infrastructure is the Sunset Tunnel, used by the N Judah and opened in 1928. It is roughly 0.8 miles long and runs under Buena Vista Heights. The last piece of core legacy infrastructure is a private right-of-way used by the J Church through Dolores Park, which opened with the rest of the line in 1917. There are also 2 pieces of modern core infrastructure on the network. The older and larger of the 2 is the Market Street subway, which runs from the east end of the Twin Peaks Tunnel to the Embarcadero under Market Street for roughly 3 miles, carrying all Muni Metro services except the T 3rd Street. It is a bi-level tunnel, with Muni Metro using the upper level and BART using the lower level. Muni Metro serves 7 stations in the tunnel, which opened for Muni service in 1980. Speaking of the T, it uses the newest of the core pieces of infrastructure on the Muni Metro, the Central Subway, which opened in 2022. It runs for 1.7 miles roughly north-south under 4th and Stockton Streets with 3 stations. This wouldn't be a Transit Explained video on this channel without some nerdy facts, so here we go. The system is 38.9 miles long and has a track gauge of 4 feet 8.5 inches or 1,435 millimeters, which is standard gauge. In the Twin Peaks Tunnel and Market Street subway, Muni Metro uses an automatic train control system that was installed in the 1990s and that is based on 1980s technology. It is so antiquated that it runs on floppy disks. Muni is in the process of upgrading the signaling system to modern communications-based train control, which will greatly improve service across the system. From what Muni's website says, it seems like this system will also be installed in the central subway. On the rest of the system, trains are driven manually as they operate in mixed traffic. The system has 12 subway stations, 24 above-ground stations, and 87 stops, which range from a yellow sign on a street pole to a curbside boarding area and wheelchair ramp. Let's now take a look at the services that run on the Muni Metro. First is the J Church, which starts at Embarcadero Station in the Market Street subway, which it leaves at the DuBose Avenue portal. It then runs south along Church Street and the aforementioned private right-of-way. It continues into another private right-of-way in the median of San Jose Avenue, which it follows all the way to Balboa Park. The line is 6.5 miles long and has 26 stops. The K Ingleside uses the entirety of the Market Street subway and Twin Peaks Tunnel. At West Portal, it runs south down West Portal Avenue, then Ocean Avenue, once again terminating at Balboa Park. The line has 24 stops and is 7.6 miles long. The L Taraval also uses the entirety of both of the main tunnels, although at West Portal it turns west and runs along Ulloa and Taraval streets. It turns south along 46th Avenue before running for 2 blocks to the San Francisco Zoo, where the line terminates. It has 27 stops and is 7.9 miles long. The M Ocean View once again uses the entirety of both main tunnels. It follows the route of the K Ingleside to Junipero Serra Boulevard, where it continues on its own right-of-way to 19th Avenue. It runs south along 19th Avenue, then east along Randolph and Broad Streets. It has 29 stops and is 8.9 miles long. The N Judah runs through the Market Street subway to the DuBose portal, like the J Church. Instead of turning to run along Church Street, it continues straight along DuBose Avenue to the Sunset Tunnel. After leaving the Sunset Tunnel, it runs west along Carl, Irving, and Judah Streets to La Playa Street, where it terminates. It has 37 stops and is 8.7 miles long. The S Shuttle is a supplemental service that runs for special events at the Chase Center in Oracle Park. It runs from West Portal to whichever of the stadiums has the special events. The last service is the T 3rd Street, which is the newest Muni Metro line. It is the only Muni Metro line that doesn't run through the Market Street subway. Instead, it begins in the southeast of the city at Sunnydale and runs north along 3rd Street, then 4th Street, where it enters the Central Subway. It runs through the Central Subway to its end at Chinatown Rose Pack. It has 22 stops and is 6.6 miles long. A transfer is available from the T to the Market Street Subway at the Union Square Market Street Station, which connects to the Powell Station. Muni Metro uses a fleet of 219 Siemens S200 SFs, which Muni refers to as LRV-4s. The fleet is maintained at the Curtis E. Green Light Rail Center at Balboa Park and Muni Metro East at the intersection of 3rd Street and Cesar Chavez Street. The trains have high floors with movable steps to allow passengers to board and alight from street-level stops. I am mesmerized by the steps raising and lowering, so I'll show clips of that now. Due to the high-floor trains with curbside stops, only 63 stations and stops are accessible. All stations feature full-length, high-level platforms, while many of the stops have mini-high platforms, which are short sections of raised platform long enough for one door to fit. This provides level boarding for people with disabilities at stops that would otherwise be inaccessible. The next mode operated by Muni is the historic streetcar, or trams if you prefer. There is currently one line, although there is a second that has been temporarily suspended since COVID. That line is the F Market and Wharves. The line begins at the corner of 17th Street, Castro Street, and Market Street in the Castro neighborhood. It then runs a straight shot northeast down Market Street, including on the transit-only section. Along this section, it and several bus routes running here act as a local service complementing Muni Metro and BART services in the Market Street subway. At the end of Market Street, it curves to run along the Embarcadero in a median streetcar-only right-of-way. At North Point Street, it begins running in mixed traffic along Jefferson Street outbound and Beach Street inbound. The line terminates at Jones Street between Beach and Jefferson Streets, right next to Fisherman's Wharf. The line has 32 stops and is 5.1 miles long. Unlike most heritage streetcar lines, the F Market and Wharves forms an integral part of San Francisco's transit network, rather than being mostly a tourist attraction. For personal observation riding the line, I can say that many of its passengers are residents of San Francisco rather than tourists. The line began operations in 1982 as a seasonal summer-only route and began full revenue service in 1995. The F Market and Wharves is operated by Muni, but supported by a nonprofit called the Market Street Railway, whose name is a callback to previous transit operators bearing the same name. I'll put a link to their website in the description and as a card in the top right corner. I would highly recommend checking them out as they do some pretty cool work. Similar to Muni Metro, the F Market and Wharves operates using a fleet of high-floor streetcars, meaning that many stops have mini-high platforms so passengers with disabilities can ride. Much of the streetcar fleet has been modified with wheelchair spaces at the front of the cars as well, which is nice to see. The streetcars are maintained at the Cameron Beach Yard, located across Geneva Avenue from the Curtis E. Green Light Rail Center. The yard is not located on the tracks of either the F Market and Wharves or temporarily suspended E. Embarcadero, so streetcars access it using a connecting track along 17th Street and at the intersection of the F Market and Wharves and J Church at Church Street. The F Market and Wharves uses an eclectic fleet of historic streetcars for its service, which probably warrant a dedicated video going more in depth on it. The backbone of the fleet are 32 PCC streetcars built in the 1940s and 50s for San Francisco and other cities around the US. The streetcars were built by the now-defunct St. Louis Car Company. PCC stands for President's Conference Committee, in reference to the Electric Railway President's Conference Committee. This was a group of streetcar execs that got together in the 1930s to modernize streetcars in the US. The PCC fleet is painted in a variety of liveries from streetcar systems around the United States and Canada, most of which are now defunct. The next part of the fleet are 6 historic streetcars built for and operated in San Francisco. Unfortunately, only PCCs were out when I visited San Francisco, so I didn't get to see any of them. Number 1 was built for Muni in 1912 by W. L. Holman and is operational. 130 and 162 were built in 1914 by Jewett Car Company for Muni and are awaiting restoration and under repair respectively. 578 is the oldest streetcar on the active roster of any transit agency in the U.S. It was built for the Market Street Railway in 1896 by Hammond Car Company and resembles the cable cars, which I'll get into in a few minutes. It is operational. 798 was built in 1924 for the Market Street Railway by the Market Street Railway's Elkton Shops and is awaiting restoration. Last is C1, built for Muni in 1916. It was used as a maintenance of way car, hauling materials needed to keep the streetcar system maintained. It was built by Pacific Car and Electric Equipment Company and is operational. The last part of the fleet are 25 streetcars from systems around the world, which the Market Street Railway calls the Wheels of the World. I think this fleet is pretty cool, so I'm going to go over the cars here. First is number 106, a streetcar from Moscow and Orel, Russia, which was built in 1912 by Klona Iron Works. 151 is from Osaka, Japan, and was built in 1927 by Kawasaki. 189 is from Porto, Portugal, and is a knockoff of streetcars from J.G. Brill, built by Comp Carri de Ferro de Porto Shops in 1929. I apologize for that pronunciation. 226, 228, and 233 are the most unique trams in the fleet. These cars were built in 1934 by English Electric for Blackpool, England. These trams are referred to as boat trams because they are open air and resemble boats in appearance. 351 is from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and was built in 1926 by the St. Louis Car Company. 496 is a W2 class tram from Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. It was built by Moore in 1928. The next 11 trams are Peter Witt streetcars from Milan, Italy, that were built in 1928 by Carminati and Toselli. 3557 is from Hamburg, Germany, and was built by Linke Hoffmann Busch in 1954. 578J is from Kobe and Hiroshima, Japan. It was built by the Fujinagata Zosen Company in 1927. 737 was built for Brussels, Belgium, and later saw service in Zurich, Switzerland. It is a so-called Euro PCC, being based on the American PCC streetcar but adapted to fit European needs. It was built in 1952 by La Bourgeoisie. 916 is another tram from Melbourne, this time of the SW6 class. It was built in 1946 by the Melbourne and Metropolitan Tramways Board. Last, but certainly not least, are 913 and 952 from New Orleans, Louisiana. These cars were built by Purley Thomas Company in 1923. It should be noted that many of these streetcars are not operational and are instead undergoing or awaiting restoration. Altogether, Muni and the modern Market Street Railway have 63 historic streetcars in their fleet, with 48 of them being operational. The last rail-based mode operated by Muni is one of the most famous transit systems in the United States, the cable cars. It is the oldest and last surviving cable car system in the world, having begun operations in 1873. This system, its history, and its operations deserves its own video, so stay tuned for that. Broadly speaking, the cable cars operate by latching onto a continuously moving cable that pulls them along the route. When the car needs to stop, the grip, equivalent of a driver or engineer on a motorized rail vehicle, detaches the car from the cable and applies track brakes, which are pine wood slabs that rub up against the rails, creating friction. These brake pads are worn down in a matter of days. Modern streetcars use track brakes, which are typically electromagnets used as emergency brakes. The track brakes on the cable cars are their primary method of stopping. I also want to point out that the cable cars are operated in conjunction with the Market Street Railway, like the F Market and Wharves. The system has 4 cables, or ropes, named after the primary street they travel under. The first is the Powell cable, which runs under Powell Street from Market Street to Washington Street. The second is the Mason cable, which runs from Washington Street to Bay Street, mostly under Mason Street. The Hyde cable runs under Jackson and Washington Streets to Hyde Street, which it runs under to Beach Street. Last, the California cable runs under California Street from Drum Street to Van Ness Avenue, with deviations under Mason Street and Hyde Street. All 4 cables meet at the cable car barn at 1201 Mason Street. This is where the cars are stored and maintained, is where the winding engines that move the cables are located, and houses the Cable Car Museum, which I'd highly recommend checking out. The Powell line run right next to the cable car barn, while the California line accesses it via a connection track along Hyde Street. I'll show a clip of the winding engines in action here, as they are really cool. The first line is the California line, which, as the name suggests, runs along California Street. It runs from Van Ness Avenue to Drum Street, which is near the Embarcadero. It is sometimes referred to as the C line. It has 18 stops, basically at every intersection, and is 1.4 miles long. It was originally built in 1878 and utilizes the California cable. The Powell-Hyde line, sometimes referred to as the PH line, runs for 2.1 miles. It starts on Powell Street at the corner of Market Street. It then runs along Washington Street inbound and Jackson Street outbound to get to Hyde Street, which it runs along to Beach Street near Fisherman's Wharf. It has 28 stops, once again stopping at almost every intersection, and began operation in 1957. It uses the Powell and Hyde cables. Last, the Powell-Mason line, otherwise known as the PM line, follows the same route as the Powell-Hyde line until Powell Street, which it runs along to Bay Street, also near Fisherman's Wharf. It opened in 1888 and runs for 1.6 miles with 23 stops. It uses the Powell and Mason cables. The current cable car system has a fleet of 42 cars of 3 broad types. The first are the Powell Street cars, which are used on the 2 Powell lines. These are single-ended cars, which means that they have to be turned around at the end of the lines on turntables. Here's a clip of them doing just that on Market Street. There are 28 Powell Street cars, which are a mix of genuinely historic cars and replicas built more recently. Like the PCCs in use on the F Market and Wharves, these cars wear a variety of liveries from the different cable car operators of San Francisco's past. The second type of cable car is the California Street car, of which there are 12. These cars are larger than the Powell cars and are double-ended, using switchbacks to turn around instead of turntables. Some of them are historic and some are replicas like the Powell cars, and wear different liveries as well. Last are two misfit cars, which are survivors from cable car lines that no longer exist. These cars are also double-ended and are only used on special occasions. As the name would suggest, the California cars are used on the California line. This system is not accessible due to using historic vehicles that were built well before the Americans with Disabilities Act was a thing. Boarding is done from the curb. Passengers must walk from the sidewalk into the middle of the street to board a car, which poses a safety risk for motorists. Unlike the F-marketed wharves, the cable car system is more of a tourist attraction than true public transit, with lines to ride being very long at peak times. This is due to the cable car's fame and synonymity with San Francisco. The cable cars navigate steeper hills than traditional streetcars can, and the vistas at the crests of those hills are part of what makes the system so popular and famous. From personal experience, the best time to ride is early morning before most of the tourists wake up. You'll experience almost no wait, and the cars won't be absolutely packed. The next mode operated by Muni are buses and trolleybuses. Muni currently operates 58 routes, with many more being temporarily suspended since COVID, like the Embarcadero streetcar route. The Muni Bus system has some dedicated bus infrastructure. The biggest is the transit-only corridor on Market Street, which is used by routes 5, 6, 7, 9, and 15. Along Van Ness Avenue is a BRT light line with dedicated grade-separated lanes and larger stations. It is used by Route 49 as well as Golden Gate Transit routes 101 and 120. Last is an even lighter BRT corridor along Geary Boulevard, which carries the 38 and 38R. 12 routes, shown on screen, are trolleybus routes, while the remaining 46 operate with diesel-electric buses. The bus routes can be split up into several categories. The first are normal routes, which operate like normal buses with frequent stops. Several of these routes operate 24/7. Then, there are rapid routes, which operate on busy corridors with less frequent stops, speeding up trips. There are a handful of express routes, which operate with even more infrequent stops, getting commuters from outer neighborhoods to downtown. They run inbound weekday mornings and outbound weekday evenings with no weekend service. A special service is the 25, which provides public transit access to Treasure and Yerba Buena Islands. It does not run on surface streets in the main part of San Francisco, instead running into the Salesforce Transit Center. Another special service is the 78X, which provides special event service to the Chase Center, linking Mission Street with the Chase Center with no intermediate stops. The 90 and 91 are nighttime-only routes, known as hour routes, supplementing for daytime routes which don't run overnight. The hour routes and the normal routes which run 24/7 are part of the Bay Area's all-nighter bus network, which is a collection of overnight bus routes throughout the Bay Area. The 714 is part of BART's Early Bird network, which provides early morning service along the BART corridor from Daly City to the Embarcadero before BART begins running for the day. The second to last category are bus routes that substitute for Muni Metro services in the early morning. The last category are two nighttime routes that substitute for Muni Metro services and that are also part of the OWL network. Muni's bus fleet consists almost entirely of New Flyer Excelsior buses. They currently have 312 XTE40s, 224 XTE60s, as well as 30 ENC Easy Rider 2s. The trolleybus fleet consists of 185 New Flyer XT40s and 93 XT60s. Last, Muni has a fleet of battery electric test buses, 3 of each from the following models: New Flyer XC40, BYD K9, Proterra ZX5, and Novabus LFS E+. Muni has a handful of depots to store its massive fleet. First is the Presidio division, located at the corner of Presidio Avenue and Geary Boulevard. The Proterra division is located on a block bounded by Mariposa Street, Bryant Street, 17th Street, and Hampshire Street. The Woods division is located next to I-280 between 22nd Street and 23rd Street. The Flynn division is located between Folsom, Harrison, 15th, and 16th Streets. The Kirkland division is located between Powell, Stockton, Beach, and North Point Streets near Fisherman's Wharf. Last is the Esles Creek division, located at the corner of Cesar Chavez Street and Indiana Street, once again next to I-280. The last mode operated by Muni is paratransit, known as SF Access. This is a service for people who are unable to ride regular fixed-route transit due to a disability. It functions like a rideshare, except trips must be scheduled in advance, and the vehicle may make multiple stops along the way to your destination to pick up and drop off other passengers. Service is available throughout the entirety of San Francisco, as well as to the northern part of Daly City. Second to last, let's talk about Muni fares. First, the methods you can use to pay. The primary method is through the Bay Area's Clipper system. This allows riders to pay using their contactless bank card or mobile wallet. There are also Clipper cards, which you could load with money like a debit card, but can only be used for SF Transit. It is also possible to create a digital Clipper card in your mobile wallet. The second way to pay is by using the Muni mobile app. The third way is to pay cash on buses, and the fourth way is to buy a single-use ticket at ticket vending machines, TVMs, at Muni Metro stations. The standard adult fare is $2.85 when paying with Muni Mobile or Clipper, and $3 when paying cash or at a TVM. This fare is good for unlimited rides within a 120-minute period. The standard fare covers Muni Metro, buses, and streetcars. It notably does not cover the cable cars, which have a separate $9 fare. A day pass will set you back $5.70, and once again, it is not valid for the cable cars. Muni offers 2 monthly passes. The M Pass includes all Muni modes and costs $86. The A Pass includes everything in the M Pass, but also includes BART travel within San Francisco. It costs $104. For visitors, Muni offers 1-day, 3-day, and 7-day visitor passports, which cover all modes. They cost $15, $35, and $47 respectively. Ticket holders for events at the Chase Center ride for free, as do kids, seniors, and people with disabilities who qualify. Discounted fares are also available for select groups like is normal for U.S. transit agencies. Wayfinding. How people without familiarity to a system get around. We are actually in an interesting time for wayfinding, not just on Muni, but on all Bay Area transit, as the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, which oversees transportation planning for the Bay Area, is working with transit operators to roll out a unified signage and wayfinding style to make navigating transit easier throughout the Bay. Muni's current signs aren't bad, as they clearly display that the location is a bus, streetcar, and/or metro stop, and what routes stop there, and where they go. Unfortunately, some of the stops on the system are only marked with a yellow wraparound sign on a signpost or power pole, which is not good, especially on busy bus and metro corridors. The new signage conveys the same information as the older signage, but in a new style that will match other agencies in the area. The new signage has been rolled out on the Market Street subway and will hopefully roll out on the rest of the system soon. Second to last, actually this time, is electrification. Muni Metro, the F Market and Wharves, and the trolley buses all use overhead lines or catenary, electrified at 600 volts DC. Muni Metro uses pantographs, pictured here, while the F and the trolley buses use trolley poles, pictured here. The trolley buses have 2 poles because one pole is for the inbound current and the other is for the return current. Rail vehicles only have 1 pantograph or pole because the return current is sent through the rails, which a rubber-tired vehicle cannot do. The last thing to talk about are transit hubs. Transit hubs in San Francisco include the Salesforce Transit Center, which is the main intercity, commuter, and regional bus station for San Francisco, the entirety of the Market Street corridor, Balboa Park Station, and Daly City Station, which isn't technically inside SF, but still acts as a hub for BART and many Muni bus routes. Well, this video kinda got out of hand, but that's all the transit operated by Muni. I'll be releasing 2 more parts in this mini-series about SF Transit, one about BART and another about other transit operators that serve the city and county of San Francisco. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel for more. If you want to support the channel further, you can join my Patreon and get access to bonus footage, extended cuts of vlogs, early access to select videos, and more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.